Thank you very much for your patience. We would like to start the 60th TIEC Cross-Cultural Seminar. I would be your host. My name is Yukari Goto. So thank you for coming. So in the beginning, upon having this cross-cultural seminar to represent this organization, the Executive Director, Student Exchange Department, Japan Student Services Organization from Keiji Maruyama, there is a video letter for as a greeting. Hello, everyone. My name is Maruyama Keiji, the Executive Director, Student Exchange Department of the Japan Student Service Organization. So thank you very much for making the time to come to the 60th TIEC Cross-Cultural Seminar. So at this seminar, we invite prominent speakers from many different backgrounds, and the goal is to deepen the understanding about Japan and Japanese culture, and to share with you the opportunities to do so. So today's theme is about the history of yokai culture in Japan. We have today invited a yokai scholar, yokai artist, and yokai event producer, Mr. Junya Kono, as today's speaker. So yokai within Japanese popular beliefs is a strange and abnormal phenomena that are beyond human understanding. Otherwise, an entity with mysterious powers that cause these phenomena and cannot be explained by science. We also sometimes call it ayakashi mononoke or mamono. So yokai has been familiar to Japanese people since the past, but it's the power that causes incomprehensible and abnormal phenomena are sometimes caused by yokai as well. So it seems we seem to need some time to understand more about yokai. So as a first step at today's seminar, we would like to share with you a new opportunity to discover about yokai. So to celebrate today's fruitful opportunity, I would like to close my greetings. So that was a speech from the Executive Director, Student Exchange Department, Japan Student Services Organization, Mr. Maruyama. Now we would like to start the very first part of this day's session. So at the first part, themed with the Japanese yokai history, we have invited Mr. Junya Kono to do a lecture. Mr. Kono was born in Kyoto. During his school years, he took part in local promotion activities utilizing yokai as yokai cultural resources and planned a yokai costume march that reproduces the night parade of 100 yokais. So currently, he is part of event operations, writing activities, research, and he is making life work to send information about Japanese yokai culture to overseas. Today, we invite Mr. Kono to speak to us about the history of yokai culture in Japan based on his knowledges and expertise. So let's invite Mr. Kono on stage and give him a big round of applause.
Hello, my name is Junya Kono. Nice to meet you all. So today, I would like to talk about the history of yokai culture in Japan for about an hour. As introduced, I am currently living in Kyoto, and theme around yokai events planned by me, and also I do publish some books about yokai. And this will be one of the examples. The publisher called Seitosha several years ago published this book which is the Yokai Encyclopedia. This is interpreted into the current life, and if we had yokai living in our situation, what would be like? So I had composed these pictures, adding yokai into the current lifestyle, graphic design, and the words or the books are written by me. So this is the title, Yokai Encyclopedia, that real yokai encyclopedia that is living near you. So if you're interested, please buy this book. And this is the yokai costume parade that I had planned in Kyoto. And we made some masks. And also to your right bottom, you see many yokais. And those are the participants who made their own costume and did the yokai parade in yokai costume. And I had about 100 participants, and I planned this event. In Kyoto, during summer time, we have yokai train ride. We let those yokai ride on a train, and last year we did this in US. So this is a yokai train in United States. So leveraging yokai, I plan various events. So today I am going to talk about yokai. Yokai has been living in our culture for long and has been very popular. Yokai is very popular because of a very complicated background. So as we talk about yokai or handle yokai, we need to understand its history well in order to leverage yokai. So I am an inventor and the author of books. I've been dealing with yokai for long. So this complicated background of yokai has been studied by myself, and thus I'm able to handle yokai as my topic. So usually I pay attention to various areas of yokai, so that's something I would like to share with you today. So I will want you to understand what yokais are. And I talk about these three topics. One is what is yokai to Japanese, and also the ghost, which is believed to be something very close to yokai, and how yokai and ghosts are perceived by Japanese citizens. That's something I'd like to explain to you. And the second is the main topic. So yokai being recognized as yokai are now, so I would like to explain why they are recognized as such now from the historical standpoint. And lastly, I would like to share some photos of yokai events so that you would understand how you're able to enjoy yokai in kind of versatile manner. So first, about what is yokai to Japanese. To your left, it is so-called yurei, ghost. And to your right, you see yokai pictures. So the conventional ghost image in Japanese context has been depicted with white costumes. It is called kyokatabira. It is something that they wear when they die. So normally, yurei, the ghost, are depicted in this manner with white costume. But when you look at the right-hand side, you see quite a variety of colors. So there's a monk who has only one eye, and the cat is playing musical instrument as if it is a human being, and also umbrella having arms and leg. So the largest difference between ghost and yokai is probably the variety of the postures or appearance. So here's a human being. And when we die, we will become ghost. The ghost has a very simple definition. After death, when the body perishes, the spirit continues to exist and appears in the same form as it did before the death. So I see many participants coming from outside of Japan, but probably in your own country, you have very similar definition about ghost in your country, meaning that ghosts are something that the human will become of in future or at some stage. Meanwhile, yokai yokais can live in seas, mountain, river, towns, or in your house as well. Yokais are different from ghosts. They can exist in various areas, and they are not human beings. Different from ghosts, yokais are non-human beings. Ghosts are something that the human beings will become of. If that is the definition, the ghosts will come from within the human beings. Meanwhile, yokai has been existing outside of the human beings. Based upon that definition, the yurei, ghost, and yokai might have some demarcation between the two, clearly. You might think that way. Actually, no. There is no clear demarcation between the two. It's very blur. Because you see the three yokais, these are defined as yokais. And let's drill down on those three different yokais. They are existing on the verge of between ghost and yokai. From the left, these are yokais lost their lives in ocean, or the one who had found out their petty fields or the fields has been sold after the death, and one is, as mentioned earlier, the ghosts will continue to keep the spirit after the death and keep the figure as it was before. But yokai used to be human beings, but they don't have any memories, names, or appearance when they are still living. So yokai's state is no longer associated with human beings' categories, attributions. So if I die, I would be kind of appearing as ghost of Junya Kono. However, I could be this yokai, as you see on this slide. So I would have totally different appearance. So then I would become yokai, not ghost.
With that definition in mind, I think we could look into it this way. So a ghost have human attributes and keep information about themselves they were alive. And on the other hand, yokais are non-human beings. This comes from two types of worshipping, otherwise ancestral worship and animist belief or worship. That is my understanding, or from what I came up with my research. So ancestral worship. So Japanese people, we embody and worship the ancestors, and we worship and pray for about family safety, and we consider kami-sama or gods of things in the river and forest and so on. And Japanese people have felt this as a normal thing, and we kind of differentiate situations when we're trying to pray. For example, for families that have passed away, we would do ancestral worship-based funerals. But in the beginning of a new year, it would be on a nature worship, and we would be praying to the New Year god or goddess. So we really are good at differentiating these different types of worship patterns. And this belief and trying to interpret all of this, I think we can consider how to determine a ghost or about yokais. Or for example, let's say someone had passed away in a very unusual way, and the spirits are still prevailing in the current world. That would be a ghost. But if it was a spirit that had been roaming around in like a river, mountain, or anywhere, that we can consider as a yokai. With that in mind, something that comes from the inner part of the human being or would be a ghost, and then a yokai would be something that lays outside of the human being. And I think we could kind of correlate that to ancestral worship and animist belief or nature worship. But on the other hand, this yokai, unlike ghost, they have a really complex background. It's not just about animist belief. Actually, only a very small percentage actually relies on this animist belief. There's so many exceptions. So this is really an only tentative kind of way of thinking, and there are many different theories about this. So let's consider why the yokai has such complex backgrounds. So I would like to reveal the historical backgrounds around yokais. From here, would like to reveal about the historical backgrounds of yokai. Let's start from medieval times, the ancient Kyoto in the darkness, Hyakkiyagyo, or Night Parade of 100 Yokais at the beginning of the yokai art. So today, I actually came from Kyoto. In Kyoto, in the medieval times, it was the capital of Japan. In the medieval times, Japan had vengeful spirits, curses. Those were strongly believed. So it's not even just believed, it was almost like even utilized politically. That was the time of era. So in order to kind of calm down the spirits, there were really high investments to create temples or shrines. And also sometimes politicians would be taken away from their positions because they had cursed someone else, or that was some sort of way that spirits were utilized for politics. And during that period, in 794, Heian-kyo, or the Heian Palace, was created in Kyoto. So the origins, one of the things that is believed is that Kanmu Emperor, who made Heian Palace, originally wanted to change or move the capital to Nagaoka, but due to a political conflict, his own little brother, because he became a vengeful spirit, Kanmu Emperor was so scared. In order to kind of keep those vengeful spirits outside, he created the Heian Palace, considering all of that curses and trying to create barriers to keep the curses outside. So in other words, the capital was created based on the ideas of having curses or any spirits coming in, vengeful spirits coming in. And even now, in the east-northern part of Kyoto, there is the Hiezan Enryakuji. It's a part of the World Heritages as well. But it is considered that there was the entrance of where Oni or ogres would come in. So that is why it was purposely set there. One of the most popular or famous festivals, Gion Festival, is a festival to purify and pacify disease-seizing entities. And also in Kyoto, there is the god of academics where students would go to pray for good academic fortune. Sugawara Michizane, because he had a deadly way of passing away, it was his entity was enshrined there. So that is why it is called the god of academics. So these kinds of festivals, the origins, it has a deep connection with vengeful spirits or curses. By the way, this Gion festival, even during COVID, where people weren't allowed to come, with just the main stakeholders, they had the festival keep on going. So the Heian Palace or Heian-kyo, with all of that in mind, what I would like to share with you, the Hyakki Yagyo, or the Night Parade of the 100 Yokais. This Night Parade of 100 Yokais is on a specific night on the large path, and many yokais would make a march. So it was almost cursed to walk outside on that day. So that's a kind of phenomenon that Hyakki Yako kind of represents. This is even registered on the Memory of the World of UNESCO of the Mido Kampaki, which is the world's oldest autographic diary of Fujiwara no Michinaga. So with Hyakkiyako, Konjaku Monogatari, which is a very ancient story, and also Ujishui, it is also written in those kinds of very ancient stories as well. And there's even a picture as well. This is the Night Parade of 100 Yokais on a picture scroll. So back then, this Hyakki Yako was very almost feared from the people. But this pictorial, if you can see, doesn't it seem a really scary picture? But maybe it's scary, spooky, but kind of humorous. Maybe even kawaii or cute. So this pictorial is almost like the ancestor of what we have today with yokai pictures. So then, these oni or ogres, they didn't even have names. But in the future, what was written on this pictorial, the Hyakkiyako Emaki, it was one each of these yokais were picked up. And that becomes the origin of the yokai encyclopedia. So back then, it was just an unusual creature without names, but that in the future would be each retrieved one by one and becomes a single encyclopedia. So even all of that considered, this Hyakkiyako pictorial is really the ancestor, the beginning point of yokai. So in Heian era, this was born, but after the Heian era, you know that the samurais come in, right? Samurais they don't believe around curses, spirits. It was more about battling politics within politics, right? So there wasn't much beliefs around curses or ghosts and spirits. So that kind of era ended. And then in the samurai era, after that, the Edo era comes in. The Edo era was 250 years of peace. And yokai kind of became like a character.
And this is a very famous Ukiyo-e, Soma no Furudairi. To your right, it is a gigantic skeleton. And to your right, the yokai themes Sugoroku, the board game. As you can see, in the Middle Age, people are scared of the Hyakkyaku, the net parade of 100 goose. But this era, the yokai had become a very popular character, and because of the publishing technology's advancement, woodprint were able to be created. So reprint had been sold in the market. So the commercial publishment used yokai as a very popular character to disseminate. So in the middle of Edo era, Seki Toriyama, who is a painter who had published the series called Gazu Hyakkyaku. And this series is starting with the old age stories and also yokai picture scrolls. And he had depicted those yokais one by one and gave name and characters to those yokais. So it has been just simply, written as a picture, but in Edo era, one yokai, one by one, had started to carry the name and characters, and it was very popular. And the series went on for the series 4. And in the end, I think the Sekien had lost the origins or the yokais that he was able to draw, and many yokais in later series were created on Sekie's own imagination. And his imagination was also included in this series. So yokais are starting to carry names and unique characters. And this is the origin of the yokai characters that we imagine now. So when Japanese hear the word yokai, the images that we have is the base of yokai depicted in this era. So once again, it is very complicated, but these characters, as you see here, those were not called yokai back then. They were called bakemono, the monster. Bakemono, they are translated into the word monster. Bake meaning change into something, and mono is object or thing. So Edo period enjoyed 250 years of peace, and then Japan moved into the modern times. So along with the ancient culture dying with the rise of Japan, and yokai had become some object for the researchers. So Edo era, the peace period is over, and then Japan had enjoyed a very rapid modernization. In this period, this shamanism or superstition were regarded as obstacles for the modernization. So those superstitions were trying to be eradicated. So this eradication caused some kind of reactions, and some Japanese wanted to review the old Japanese cultures, and that kind of reaction had happened in Japan as well. So locally passed on the mysterious traditions had started to become the object of the researchers as a part of the folk culture. The superstitions that some Japanese had tried to eradicate it, that was generically called as yokai. The word yokai, itself had existed for long, but the application of this word yokai has been very limited. It had been something, a very special word which are used by intelligent layers of people. But yokai had become a target of the researchers and started to be widely used. And the definition of this yokai is the phenomenon of the very unusual phenomenon. So this no longer refers to the character that we saw earlier. So nowadays, the term yokai was differently used during this period. So in recent years, there are some people who have been researching the yokai, and this person is Endo Inoue. Some of you probably are living in Tokyo, but I think some of you might have visited the Tetsugakudo Koen, the park, and he had created this park. And Meiji era, the Buddhism was not widely accepted. So in order to re-enlighten the Buddhism, he had studied the superstition aggressively, and so that this Buddhism will become in the light once again. And this is Tsutomu Emma, and he had made a very large impact to this society as well. But I would like to skip this explanation on Mr. Emma. And this is Kunio Yanakita. He is the kind of a master of the Japanese folk stories, and things and the objects which would be regarded or dismissed or discarded as superstition, he found some world within those things. So not just cutting off the superstition, but he found some value in those items or the things and started to study on that. And Mr. Kunio Yanakita had put together the stories of yokai from all over Japan, and he put together a book of yokai stories, and it is consisted of 80 different yokai stories. And 4 of those are around very famous yokais. 4 of those. Sunakake Baba, the old woman throwing sand, and Konaki Jiji, Itan Momen, and Nurikabe. And I think almost all Japanese know those names. And he put together those names of yokais into one storybook, and that is the effort of Mr. Yanakita. The reason why those 4 characters are very popular is probably you would understand. And yokai of contemporary, it is both a folk culture and the originator of the Japanese character. So I'd like to explain this topic. And after the Second World War, there are 2 major phenomenal manga tellers. And one is a very high quality manga writer, and it started after the Second World War. One is Osamu Tezuka, and the other is Shigeru Mizuki. And to your left, Tezuka Osamu, he is called as a god of manga in Japan, and he came up with various ways to depict things, and he had a series of blockbusters, and his mangas are still known in various genres. And one is called Blackjack, which is a story about the doctor, and that is going to be a film. And he is the one who came up with a full-length animation, and he raised the quality of Japanese manga significantly. And another person is Shigeru Mizuki.
On the right-hand side, you see Shigeru Mizuki. He is almost the inventor of yokai manga. He had created various popular projects as well, but compared to Tezuka Osamu, it's not that he was going across multiple genres, but he was specified in one specific genre. Last year in 2023, one of his latest animations that was based on Mizuki Shigeru's manga was a huge hit. He's passed away almost 10 years ago, but even today, his manga has a huge impact on today's animations and manga. So it was an opportunity for people to learn about yokais through Mizuki Shigeru's stories. So one of his representative works called Gegege no Kitaro. So Kitaro is a boy who is there to beat the yokais that are in, the bad yokais. I think it was animated 6 times, and on a 10-year period, actually animations are done on a 10-year period, so Japanese people at some point of their lives have watched Gegege no Kitaro, so he was the one who penetrated the idea of yokai and his work Gegege no Kitaro. Within this show Gegege no Kitaro, the main character Kitaro, and then he has some friends, companions, like I have introduced to you, like Sunakake Baba, Konaki Jiji, Itan Mome, Nurikabe. Those are his friends that work with him. On the other hand, the victims or the bad yokais, Narihyon, Noratahyo, Wanyu, Do, Kasha, these are actually the ones that work with Kitaro, or friends with Kitaro. In modern times, Yanakita Kunio, these are the yokais that are within the folk research papers, but the bad yokais are from the Edo period, where Seki and Toriyama, and also featured in the illustrated Night Parade of 100 Yokais, the bakemonos in there. So Gegege no Kitaro actually is the yokais that are from the folklore information and also the Edo bakemonos. They're almost competing each other, and then they are all consolidated as yokai. So usually the right-hand side, the ones that are characterized, the bakemono from Edo period, they weren't necessarily called yokai, but within Mizuki Shigeru's works, the bakemonos from Edo period were also consolidated to be called yokai. So with those influences, it is now what it is right now with yokai. So the contemporary yokai, so if I were to summarize all of this in contemporary times, the bakemono from Edo area and also the yokais from folklores, these are all consolidated to be called yokai, and with that as a definition, there are many encyclopedias, mangas that are published, and those have become popular. And even now, there are many different types of manga, anime, games that feature yokai. But all of them have been developed from the yokai mangas created by Mizuki Shigeru or Shigeru Mizuki. And it has become what it is right now. In other words, so yokai, it's not necessarily something that's been derived from someone, but represented by people like Shigeru Mizuki. It's like manga, pop culture. Those who have read them created the idea of yokai. So to summarize all of this, yokai during the Heian period or medieval times, it was born from the darkness, and then in early modern times through like Ukiyo-e popular culture, it has become more of a character, sophisticated. And then in modern times, in order to kind of research the vanishing Japanese culture, became a subject of research. And then in contemporary times, that integrated with pop culture and has become something that is well known to all people, old or young. So Japanese yokai have folklore as a base, and even as pop culture become more sophisticated and is loved by the many people from a global perspective as well, Japan, yokais are so popular. I think that is one reason why, even if we look at it from a global perspective. So this indigenous beliefs and pop culture all connected together and a character, I don't think there's any other examples outside of Japan. I think this is very Japanese specific. So that was my presentation around Japanese yokais and its history. But from here, I want to share with you some of the pictures of the yokai events that I have done in Kyoto. So originally, the yokai events started off in 2005 in a shopping alley. In order to kind of revive that area in Kyoto, that was the opportunity that I found to do these sorts of events. I was back then a student, but in that shopping alley in Kyoto, it's called the Ichijo Street. I have shown you that was the street where the Hyakkyaku, the night parade of 100 yokais, was said to have been done. So in order to revive that local area, we did a costuming event to kind of reproduce that. So I was a student, but I was able to, with 2 weeks, kind of collecting my peers from university, we were able to have this customized event. So this is the first event where we have the costumed yokais. So during this night parade of 100 yokais, in this April, it has expanded to this much. So 2005, it was 30 people with handmade costumes, but now, right now, of course, there are yokais that even I made, and also there are general people who are otherwise known as cosplayers. So we had approximately 100 people participate in the parade. On the other hand, has anyone seen this before? Oh, wow. I think I have found one person in the audience who's seen this before. So with this kind of format, with the Hyakkyaku, we reproduced it where it was said to have actually happened. So that is one of my main activities. So I would like to, from here, share with you one by one the activities through pictures. So the Ichijo Street where the Hyakkyaku was said to have been done, it was in Kamigyo Ward. During the Heian Palace, it was said to be on the Northern Bridge. It is a one-way, really narrow street. So once a year, we collect 100 costumes in yokai. So usually, it's very calm, quiet, but during these events, people would come in, and you can see there's a mix of human beings and also costume yokais. So today, it's kind of a realistic yokai. I have actually brought it here with me today, so I would love to share it with you later. So it looks like this. It's quite realistic, right? And these yokais were marching in the parade of the Ichijo Street in Kyoto. The yokai on a night parade. So it was quite unusual because people were saying, a yokai is coming, please open up the street. So quite a scene. That's me. So I was at the leader of the yokai. So I was at the very front. So I needed to make sure that I had good scenery and I was able to talk. So this was kind of my mask that I had. From here, these are actually people, the general people participating with us. So I was talking about yokais until now, but until now, the yokai people were looking through animations or books, and that was the only way for them to enjoy yokai. But having this participating yokai event, people created the opportunities to create their own costumes. And then it was a new way to enjoy yokai. So this is a normal ordinary resident dressed up as a tsuchigumo. So they were looking up pastime yokais and then kind of created that to modernize costumes and participate in the march.
And this is the moss yokai. Very high quality costumes are worn by those participants. And those are also all handmade. And there are many scary yokais, but some of those are very cute. And some of them participate in these cute costumes as well. This is Belone, a Showa encyclopedia, yokai encyclopedia had this image. It's a kind of a created one, and he broke his arm 2-3 days ago. But because of this day of the night parade of 100 yokai, he insisted to participate, and it is of course okay to participate as a family. So the children and the parent participate together, and also children can participate by themselves as well. This is the very first 2005 Hyakyako couple. Actually, they got married, and this is the son of the couple that they met at Hyakyako event. And of course, he's too young, and as he was not able to walk through this parade, and he was carried by his mother. And the mother is drawing the mouth. It's Kuchisake Onna. And you saw many pictures of the different kinds of costume. But actually, after this lecture, there will be a workshop that you can make your own masks, and you'll be able to take photos with our yokais. So now I want you to become a yokai. So we would like to start this workshop to create the yokai masks. So thank you very much for listening. This concludes my presentation. Thank you very much. Mr. Kono, thank you very much. Once again, please join me a big round of applause to Mr. Kono. This concludes our seminar today. Thank you very much for tuning in.